can I leave you to introduce yourself?
Good morning. I first have to say a few things. My colleagues, Gu Daqing and Wu Buineng, couldn't come today, but what I showed is actually our work, not mine. So I represent this small group. I'm retired, but Gu Daqing and Wu Buineng still teach at the Chinese university. But what I show has nothing, it's not related to the university, it doesn't represent the university, it also has nothing to do with the heritage center at that university. I just have to make this clear. But there is a background for what I show, the two levels of background. One is this particular study, or the beginning of this study, in support of the Central and Western concern group, maybe 1.5 years ago. And one of the reasons why we started to look at the building is that at that time it was said that the building has no architectural value, as in the case of many other buildings which the government says we preserve it, but it has no value. And the Central and Western Concern Group asked us if we could say something about the architecture. And we three are very interested in architecture, architectural design, and one of the reasons is when teaching, we have to be interested in what we are doing. So we represent, so to say, a design view on this, not a historical view and not heritage view. It's a design view, it's our interest. And our background is, apart from many other things, we are very interested in Hong Kong's, I say now a very rough term, modern architecture. What we mean with this is the architecture from the 30s up to maybe the 70s. And what we discovered is that this architecture, and I mean the buildings which can be seen, show a very high level of design know-how. They are very, very good, and not just things. But now, if I say this, you don't have to believe me, because I can just say anything. I can say they are bad, they are good. It doesn't make sense. This is a judgment, but the judgment has to be based on something. We can't just make a judgment without letting. So what I will now try to do is just to give you an indication that we are very interested to actually look at the building. If you want to know something about the building, we have to look at it. Of course you can say, why don't you ask the architect? And I say, well, maybe that's not too good an idea. It might be interesting to ask the architect as well, but first we have to look at the building. Because the architect might tell us something else. He might be interested to tell us something else. But if you look at the building, if the building has architectural ideas in its design, then those ideas must be in the building. They can't be in a book, in a magazine, or in the head of somebody else. They have to be in the building. But if they are in the building, we also are able to read them from the building. And this is something we are very interested in. And for example, one of the most impressive things is in Hong Kong, in this type of architecture, are the two police housing programs. Unfortunately, from the second program, most of it has been destroyed in the last few years. And fortunately, we started to study it before it was too late, but now the buildings are gone. And I think there is a value in this building from our point of view, not just in its value as a heritage or in its emotional value or historical value or social value, whatever, but they also contain, so I don't know which word to use, design knowledge, design wisdom, and therefore can carry that know-how over time. And if we destroy it, that know-how is no more accessible. So now I try to show a few things. I was asked to talk very shortly. I hope I managed to do that. So we have done some 2 more presentations about the central markets in other occasions, and this is a third one. It's different from the others because I had to adjust to the situation. So I'm basically only talking about 2 things. A short thing about the building, another one about the approach. But before that, I want to show something which I call Asian markets. And what I mean is, I try to look at some Asian, if there are other Asian markets, how is the Hong Kong market among other markets in Asia? And this is I would say, an arbitrary selection. There's not too much meaning in the selection, it's just that we could find these examples. And the interesting thing is, that each of these markets has a unique expression from the outside. Of course, the pictures I took from the internet, some are not very good, but this is the central market in Kuala Lumpur. It is just, it's about the same time as the Hong Kong market, but it's very different. This one is very spectacular, of course, as a building. It's the market in Phnom Penh, same time. And this one, this is not the north, it's just from above because you can see the roof. It looks very interesting, and I will show afterwards inside. Is the one in Semarang, it's a small city in Indonesia. And now the Hong Kong market. Now, if I just look at these 4 and compare, maybe the Hong Kong ones now looks a little bit weak. I'm saying that because I will make afterwards an argument why it looks a little bit weak here in my picture. And now I have 4 images from the interior. And you can see that each of the interior is very distinct, which means they are different from each other, but each one also is very strong, very specific. Of course, maybe this type of expression we are more used to, but look at this space here. This is an extraordinary space, which we see in this market. And also here, if you look